I've been in teams, obviously.
Right.
Hello, Tammy.
Hi,
How
Tammy.
how are you? I don't know that you looks like you're muted, and hopefully you can hear us. If you can, you can unmute or
Oh,
you can
someone said
put a
something.
message in the chat box.
She
Oh,
said, for
there
some
you
reason,
go.
I can hear but can't talk. I had the same issue when I first got in. So you're not alone.
Let's see if there's a way to give you.
Yeah, it appears they changed all the
Okay.
defaults on us, Dwayne.
Okay, yeah, I went in and switched some stuff around. I know this is actually recorded. So just be aware of that. Tammy, you may have gotten a prompt when you came in that the meeting is being recorded. Um, hopefully you did. They have moved some things around on the team's dashboard. I had an issue finding the start button earlier, just a few minutes ago. But so thank you for being here, Tammy. And what we'll do, quite frankly, is I'll do a really quick, brief introduction. What we normally do is give the program about there's another person. Carm. Okay. Welcome, Carm. So anyway, I was going to say, usually we give the about 15 minutes and then we kind of call it, unless there's someone in the room. And then what we'll do is we'll make it more of like a Q&A or conversational if we need to, whatever we need to do to make it fit the audience and get you the information that you're looking for. So I do know that Laura has a great presentation for us and she's very knowledgeable about this topic. Oh, and we have Amber Nobles. Yes, we know Amber, SBC director. Good to see you. Um,
Hey,
hey, you can
Hi.
talk. We can see you.
Hey, Amber.
hey,
Good to
sorry,
see
I'm late.
you.
I just had a client leave, but I'm really looking forward to today because I'm really interested to see because everyone is heavily pushing AI all the time.
Yeah,
So
Yes.
I'm interested just to see what you say because we discourage the use here for marketing specifically. So I was like, oh, I need to get into this.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I
Well, this,
appreciate you being here. It's nice to meet
yeah,
you, Amber. It's also nice to meet you, Carm and Tammy. I know we can't hear y'all, but nice to meet you.
yeah, and yeah, that's great. And so I said was talking to Laura a couple of days ago about I think what's happened with photography is kind of what you see what is happening with graphic design with with technology and our phones and all these things. We kind of take real photography for granted and the actual skill
Mm-hmm.
level that it takes and what makes a great photograph or what makes great design and all those things that go into the skill set. And so Laura and I were talking before we decided to do this program. She was kind of on her soapbox about graphic design and how it's so important and logos and how intuitive it is and all those things. And I was like, hey, why don't you do a webinar for us, do a program for us? And she was kind of like questioning it at first, and I was like, well, we've been talking for about an hour, so
Yeah. I was like, okay, maybe there's more to it than I than I thought.
yeah, yeah. So
Absolutely.
if you don't mind, Laura, if you want to, Laura is the owner. Sorry, she's the owner, founder of Creative Clarity Studio here in Asheville, North Carolina. She's been doing it for a number of years. If I don't know if you had a chance to check out her website. Now, again, in the days of social media and AI, you probably had a chance to look at her website and see some of the clients that she's worked with. So she has a lot of knowledge in this space. She owns her own business. She's also worked, been contracted with other firms to do work for them. So she's got a pretty good knowledge base in this subject matter area. So, Laura, if you want to go ahead and take it away, share your screen, feel free to do
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Let me get, I'll share and then I'll get the PowerPoint kind of into presentation mode. Just give me a few seconds. Right. Okay. Is that showing for everyone? Teams always likes to make
Yes,
my life
ma'am.
difficult with screen share on my other meetings. I swear it's like whenever I need it to work, it doesn't. I'm gonna just minimize, hold on one second. All of our faces are in my top corner. I don't think you guys can see it, but I can. So, all right.
No.
So we're here to talk today about, I would say, the perks and the benefits to hiring a graphic designer for your business in the age of AI, and kind of some of the pros and cons. I definitely, as a business owner, as I'm sure everyone, right, nowadays, we all use AI to some extent. So I'm not over here to say like I'm completely against AI, but definitely in the space of graphic design, logos, branding, your brand identity, things like that. There's a lot of really key points that we're going to go over today that are kind of going to touch on why it's really important to work with a designer, to work with someone that has the knowledge and the years of experience to bring lots of different elements to your business and your brand long term, and why AI just isn't, in a lot of ways, the best option for the longevity, I would say, is probably the key word of your brand or company. So, oh, it's not, oh, there it goes. Sorry, I had to figure out how to click to the next slide. My keypad wasn't working. So this is just kind of a little intro, which I kind of just touched on. Great design has never just been about making things look good. There's so much more that goes into logo design, brand design. And I often tell people, a lot of people are like, oh, I need a logo. And there's a very big difference of having a logo and having a brand. When you work with a designer, we're not just looking to create you a logo mark that is what you show for your business. We actually sit down and we spend hours doing research, and we'll look at your competitors, and we'll look at the psychology of color and fonts and engagement, and what is your demographic, you know, interacting with, let's say, online and things like that. And we take all of those elements, and that's what actually creates a brand, because a logo isn't just the creative icon on your logo. It is your fonts, your brand colors that need to be established in my world, what we call Pantone colors. And I have a lot of people come to me specifically just with that, where they've designed a logo, let's say in Canva or with AI. And then the first thing I ask is, what are your brand colors? What are your fonts? Because that's the first thing any designer is going to need to build the brand when we look at business cards, letterhead, envelope, websites, all of those things. So that's kind of going to be kind of the main focus of today, of how working with a designer differentiates in that experience versus if you're working in an AI, and how there's a lot more you can get out of with working with someone. A little bit about who I am. I started Creative Clarity Studio about 10 years ago now. As Dwayne mentioned, I've collaborated with lots of different marketing firms all over the East Coast. I've worked with different companies and brands all over the East Coast. I've also worked as a full-time employee in different marketing spaces as well. So I've had experience being self-employed as a small business owner, as well as working, as a full-time role on a team with a huge, group of people collaborating and stuff. Outside of work, I'm a mom of lots of kids. We have a few dogs, we have a hamster, some fish, we have lots of, we call it a zoo over here. And then a fun fact about me that I always like to share is I'm actually a dual citizen. My parents both came from England over here, so I have dual citizenship between the UK and the US. All right. So kind of some quick webinar objectives, kind of a quick bullet list of what we're going to try to cover today. Why is good design about more than looking good? How strong branding can help your business stand out? Knowing your audience and why that matters. How design can support real business goals, where AI can help, and where a designer's experience is still important. and what to look for when choosing the right design partner. My goal for you today is to help you better understand the value of good design and make smarter choices for your brand long term. Okay, so why graphic design is about solving business problems and how the landscape of brand and design is changing. The way we create, sorry, the way everyone is creating is changing. It honestly has kind of happened in our space more than once, because I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Canva. That happened, what, 10, I want to say, probably about 10 years ago when I first started my company. Canva was created, and it was an incredible platform for lots of people who maybe were just getting started, didn't know where to start, and they could create a logo or a flyer or, a business card really easily. Accessible tool, typically free. And so that was a time in design too where we kind of came up against explaining to people still the difference in creating it yourself versus working with someone, hiring someone that has that knowledge and expertise, and what things you get out of that. Now we're stepping into the world of AI, and it's going tenfold, because while Canva was very fast, AI is 10 times faster. You just pull up the chat, you tell it, make me this, and it creates something. And while that, I believe, is such a great tool for exploration, thinking through ideas, maybe getting some ideas of things you do and don't like, possibly before you meet with a designer. Because one of the first things you'll do when you work with a designer is we'll have kind of a brainstorming session, and we'll ask lots of questions. Or, what's your favorite colors? What's your vision? What's your business goals? What do you envision your brand looking like? Because as a designer, we're trying to get into the psychoses of you as the business owner, but also the business, the demographic, the goals of the company, what industry you're in, so that we can pull from all those research elements to create your specific brand long term. So let's see. Oh, I think I read this already. I'm so sorry. I skipped ahead of myself. Dwayne and I joked that was probably definitely going to happen a few times in this presentation. So the role of design beyond visual appearance. Good design starts with purpose. Design should be more than catching someone's eye. It should clearly communicate your message, support your business goals, and connect with the people you want to reach, which is kind of similar to what I was just mentioning. My business brand is called Creative Clarity. And the reason why I called it that was because my passion behind what I do is to bring your vision to life. That conversation that I was just talking about sitting down and having that conversation, getting to know you, getting to know your goals, getting to know your dreams. That's what drives 9 times out of 10, the graphic designers that I've talked to or worked with. That's where our passion lies, is helping someone make their vision that reality and setting them up for success in the long term. And so those are kind of, just stating that alone, AI can give you a lot of information, but it doesn't have that personal connection that sitting down with a designer can give you, because we're going to talk about your passions, your goals, all of that stuff. And I'm going to be fully emotionally invested in that to help you reach those goals. AI misses that piece, and it's just a technical tool that kind of, I don't want to say tells us what we want to hear, but essentially tells us everything we want to know and what we want to hear so quickly that it's very satisfying instantly, but it's not necessarily going to be satisfying for you in the long haul. And the biggest thing that I always mention is, when you're working with a designer, everything we do has a purpose. Every single decision. So when I'm working with clients and we're doing a logo or a brand, and I send you your initial logo concepts, because there's kind of a phase in how we do that, you'll get let's say anywhere between 3 to 5 different concepts. And every single one of those concepts is going to reflect something that we talked about, something that connects to the things that you expressed was your vision. And even more so, I always tell clients too, sometimes, and this is something I know we'll touch on a little bit later, but when we talk about finding the right designer that fits you and working with different creative partners, that's a big piece. Is the clearer we can be on our business goals, the clearer we can be on our vision for our business, the better information we can share with that designer to help them create that perfect visual that you're looking for your business. So this kind of continues on what we were talking about. Your designer should be a strategic partner. That is literally what we're here for. We're here to use our years of experience, our knowledge, our education, our studies, and I'm constantly researching online, staying on top of trends. How is the market changing? How is the market moving? We're meant to be your partner. We're meant to be your greatest advocate. But one of the biggest misconceptions I also have found over the years of working with clients is people have a conception that a logo is meant to just represent us. And it's actually really meant to represent your business and your demographic and who you want to attract to bring into your business more than it is us. Now, it's 100% meant to reflect us. We should definitely have elements of what matters to us, what is personally important to us in the brand, but it should more so, I would say 75 to 80% reflect where we want to go, who we want to attract, what kind of business we want to bring in more than ourselves. And I feel like if there's anything I've learned that's a big misconception is when I start working with people, I hear a lot more about themselves than about their business and like what their demographic is or what their audience is. And that is the most important thing for the success of your business long term. So yeah, so this slide just kind of goes over kind of the steps and kind of points that like we try to kind of go through in that initial like touch point process of working with a creative designer. So this section kind of divulges a little bit more into detail about brand differentiation in a crowded marketplace. We'll use, we're in Asheville, so let's talk about beer. I think beer is a great space because it's a very popular, business. Here you have multiple different brands all throughout Asheville that are all creating their unique version of a beer, of an IPA, of the different types of beers. And yet every single one of them have found their unique visual representation and brand that sets them apart from all of them. And every single one of those would have gone through similar processes that we're talking about of how do they stand out? What makes them different? And then how do we reflect that into their brand? How do we reflect that uniqueness into what they look like from a visual standpoint? Some of the key points that I would say call out is first impressions matter. I am a stickler for, I will literally pick up a product solely because the packaging is unique. Now, I know not everyone is like that. I kind of joke with people that sometimes people don't care and it's all price driven, and I totally get that. I am definitely the opposite. If I see a ketchup brand that has a really funky label, I'm going to try that because I think the branding and the marketing is more intriguing. That's probably also because of the industry I'm in. But that is the goal. The goal of what a graphic designer does is one, to create brand recognition, like Nike, Heinz. You know those from the second you see them because they've been so consistent over so many years to create that brand that you don't even have to think twice. You could probably skim a shoe aisle and know where the Nike boxes are because of that brand recognition. So first impressions matter. Being different gets you noticed. Templates only go so far. That's kind of how we were talking about with Canva. Canva in the space of design is really great, but it is still a template. So you have to remember that there could be 7 other companies using that exact template, and they've just changed the text or they've just changed the colors. And that is kind of the difference in creating a brand versus a logo. We're creating a logo when we do that can get you started, and that's a really great starting place. But to create the brand, all those elements would need to be custom. And kind of, again, I know it's probably going to be a little repetitive on some of the items, but AI can create, but it needs a lot of direction, and it doesn't have the ability to create. One of the big things I also notice is AI is not able to create file types that you actually need for the longevity of your business. Let's say you decide you want to help sponsor your friend's 5K running event and they want to put your logo on the back of a t-shirt. If you don't have a logo that is in all black and white, or white, all white, so that it could go on a colored t-shirt, those are going to be elements and times where you run into hiccups because your friend is going to say, "Oh, I'm really sorry. We can't put a full colored logo because of the cost for printing on a t-shirt, because we're only doing single colors." And AI doesn't create those types of logos. They create really beautiful, elaborate, three-dimensional, I would say, artwork, but they don't create a lot of stuff in the flat black and white space, which is what you always want your logo to work in a multiverse space. You want it to be able to work in one color, and you want it to be able to work in multicolors and three-dimensional as well, if that's the look that you're going for. So developing a unique brand position. This is really like getting into the core pieces of your business and understanding your company's values, knowing your audience, knowing your competition, knowing your voice, that then leads to creating that visual identity, which is kind of what I've been mentioning like earlier on. And then consistency builds recognition. I kind of already touched on this when we were talking about Nike or like Heinz ketchup. They create consistent visuals across all mediums. So social, website, print, digital ads, print ads, even the tags on their products, right? They're using specific colors, specific fonts, all those kinds of things to create that brand consistency that helps the general public connect, engage, know what it is, and then creates that trust. The biggest thing is we're building trust with the client base through that brand recognition. Understanding audience context and customer journey. Knowing your audience. So that's a big one that I'm sure Dwayne and them at Small Business Center spend a lot of time coaching when you're starting a small business is, understanding your demographic, your audience. Who are you trying to talk to? Who are you trying to speak to? And understanding, what makes them tick? What are they looking for? What is going to convince them that your product or your service is something they need? Context matters. Someone may just see a brand, but it can be just as important what they see as what they feel. Design doesn't exist on its own. Your audience may experience your brand on a phone, website, social, billboard, all different mediums. Okay. Dwayne, I feel like some of this sorry, I'm like, Dwayne and I went through this whole thing, but I'm like, I feel like I've kind of touched on some things.
You're
So
doing great. I
I
I
don't
told you that
know.
would happen. And so some
Yeah.
redundancy is fine built into the
Okay.
presentation. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I was like, I feel like I kind of already touched on that too,
Yeah,
but
you're just clarifying the points, which is great.
okay. Okay, so let's go on to results over nice visuals. So this is a big thing that, again, I know we've kind of already, you
Hey,
go ahead.
hey, Laura, real quick, I'm gonna just trying to, get a feel for everyone who's listening.
Yep.
If you have any questions right now, this might be a good spot to just kind of, if you want to put some questions in the chat, if you have access to the mic, if you have a question, feel free to ask. Uh, we'll give you a few seconds, then otherwise we'll just move forward.
Uh,
All right, great.
oh, I was pulling over to see if I could see the chat. Sorry. I was like, there's
I
not a
got you.
small
I
button for
got
me
you.
to see it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me back. So results over nice visuals. So how do we measure success? I mean, there's lots of different ways today, especially in the digital space, for sure. I know that with my company, we don't just do design, we also do marketing. So we go through a lot of different mediums like email, social media, websites, and there's lots of ways to track customer engagement. Are we converting clients through social media ads, for example? Bringing that brand awareness. We also do what's called a lot of A/B testing in design. So we may do a Facebook ad, but we may create two completely different visuals, or we may use two completely different photographs. To Dwayne's point earlier, talking about photography and the importance of that, and just to see how clients are engaging with content. I'll use a current example. I work with a orthopedic company based out of Charlotte, and for years they had been working through different kind of strategies and different visual approaches of what are customers engaging with. And a lot of the visuals previously had been very what I consider literal, in the regard that they would use a knee bone or a shoulder bone to show, like, this is the subject that we're focusing on for this ad or for this flyer. And one of the transitions we've been looking to make is actually not so literal about, okay, we're talking about shoulder, let's put a shoulder picture or someone's shoulder, skeleton or things like that on this. Let's look at, what do people want to feel after they come to our company for treatment? How do they want to live life after? And how do we express that emotion through photography? And so that's a great example of now where we've run two completely separate styled campaigns, and we're able to see how our customers engage with that content, with those visuals, and how they're responding, and how that's then in turn increasing your volume of patients coming in, of patients seeking to get treatment, and how, because of how they're responding to your brand and your visuals. Attractive versus effective. So this kind of touches a little bit on kind of what I mentioned before too, that something can be exactly what you want it to look like. You can have an idea in your head and say, this is amazing, I love this, this is absolutely beautiful, it's so crisp, stoic, whatever the words are you want to use to describe it. But how is our audience going to feel about it? So it could be the most elaborate, beautiful, intricate logo design, but is it working? A big thing that I see with a lot of clients that maybe have started a logo process themselves and then they come to me later looking for support is, this logo's really beautiful. However, it has too much detail, too much small, fine print. And by print, I don't mean like actual words. I just mean like fine, minute, illustrative details that when I go to make that logo really, really tiny, because on your website, for example, your logo can't be super large, or you may need it in a small icon, or on social media, right? Our little circle up in the top of our social media platform is very small. We want that brand to be recognizable across every single platform. So, is it a beautiful piece of artwork? 100%. But is it going to be effective for us in all the spaces that we need to use that logo so that it's recognizable no matter its size, no matter its color, no matter its uh, platform that it's being used on? I mean, if everything was just on a big billboard, you'd never have an issue. But unfortunately, in the space of design, we do need things to be able to be half an inch by half an inch, and that gets really small. So that's kind of a good comparison of like the difference in the having something attractive versus needing it to be effective so that it works for your business long term. Connecting design to your marketing goals. So that kind of touches again a little bit on what I was using the orthopedic companies like strategy, and how me as the designer will sit and work with the team and hear about the feedback, talk about, hey, we're experiencing this, or like this particular ad we did, people didn't like, or we had no engagement. All that feedback gives a designer more direction to go, okay, let's sit and look at this ad. Let's sit and look at this ad. What are the differences? What are the emotions that could be feeling different? And then how do I generate more of what people are responding to in a positive manner? So it's not just about what we want to create, especially as designers. It's about what's effective and what is giving the client the goals that they would like to meet, and being strategic in what we're doing every step of the way. AI technology and the limits of automation. So AI can be a super powerful tool as part of the creative process, especially when you know how to use it. And these are kind of a couple different examples of where I use it. I use it to brainstorm. If I have someone that comes to me and doesn't even really know what they want to call their business yet, they just have this idea, but they're not sure what the best name for the business is that's going to represent them and their concept. AI can be an amazing tool to kind of spitfire lots of different words that maybe I sit down with the client and I ask them lots of different questions that kind of get them to give me words about how they feel about their business. And then I may take that list and ask AI, hey AI, or hey ChatGPT, can you give me a bunch of synonyms for all these different words? Like, what are some additional words that maybe we're not thinking about that are more unique or outside of the box that we would never think about, that could be super, I don't know, out of the box thinking that will help us go, oh, that's it. That we need to use that word. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that word, because we're all busy. We all have 45 different things on our minds. And so that's where I find AI to be a really helpful tool, is help me think about what I'm not thinking about. Like, help me process what's not right in front of me, and what am I missing here, kind of thing. It's also just this is a little outside of just design specifically, but from a business standpoint and running a business, it's a really great tool in communication. I do a lot of, not all the time, but like if I have a client that I'm working with and I can tell, I'm not seeming to explain this where it's making sense to them. Like, I'm clearly talking too much in my designer brain, and I need to explain this a different way. I will use AI for that sometimes, where I'll put in my email and say, help me describe this in a different way, or in a less design forward manner, so that, someone else that doesn't have the same brain screwed on like me can understand it from a different vantage point. Those are some really great ways that I feel like AI does shine, and it does help us support us be faster. Also, I mean, we use it from a team standpoint of delegating tasks, or like being organized and putting all of our thoughts, and then just asking it, hey, can you organize this so that it's in, bullet point form and more organized than our just like word vomit? I think those are ways that AI can help us be more efficient without taking away from us still using our brain and like being fully engaged in the content and stuff we are creating and doing. Um, Do you want to admit that, Dwayne? Okay.
That's Christine. Sorry, that's Christine.
Okay.
Hey, Christine. Christine was actually trying to get in. She had
Oh
emailed me
no.
and she was not able to get in. So I actually shared her an invite from the meeting. And
Mm,
I was really just testing it to see if she was able to get on. And Christine, I did
okay.
inform her and everyone that this is being recorded. So we're going to share
Okay.
the link to watch this on demand on YouTube after it's all said and done. So Christine, thank you. And I do apologize that you were not able to join. Just hopefully you can hang in there and get something from this. Laura's already shared some really great information, but just hang in there, and I appreciate you jumping on.
Awesome. So where AI falls short? Well, I feel like our whole presentation today is kind of me focusing on like where as a designer I feel like, it can fall short. The biggest thing is it lacks true context. And that kind of goes to what we're talking about of having that one-on-one in-person conversation, really being able to ask the nitty-gritty questions that when maybe you're just sitting with AI yourself, you may not even know to tell it to do that, because the benefit to working with a designer that has those years of experience and knowledge of the industries and that's going to do that research is we're going to ask you questions you probably never even thought of asking yourself when it comes to the visual components of your business. And so if you don't have that conversation with someone and you just go directly to a platform like AI, you're going to tell it everything you know to give it, which there's nothing wrong with that. But because of that, there could be a lot of deeper layers regarding the brand and visual components of your business that you may not know to tell it to incorporate. Um, and it just also like the notes on my PowerPoint, it doesn't understand the history behind everything you've done unless you uploaded 655 files of every single thing you've done and said, hey, ChatGPT, take all of this and tell me what I should do. And I think even then it would probably get overwhelmed because I just don't think it's there yet, at least based on my own experience, even just in the little bit. I mean, as designers, we all dabble. I'm always like curious of like, okay, if I just told it to do this, like, what does it do? Like, what does it create? Um, Going to a space that Dwayne mentioned again, photography. Photography is a huge space in the graphic design space outside of just logos. And AI has really infiltrated photography. I mean, I use a platform called Shutterstock for my stock photography when I'm working with clients. And now I have to, well, I don't have to, but it is smart as a business owner that I use AI within Shutterstock. They have its whole own component where, let's say they have a photo that I absolutely love, but I hate the color of the guy's shorts. Like, it's so far off brand because it's hot pink, but everything else about that photo works. Well, I download the asset, I buy the credits to the photo, and then I can put it into their AI platform and tell it, change his shorts to be orange versus hot pink. And funny enough, that sounds really great, right? Like, it sounds amazing because it makes my job faster. Because previously, if I had wanted to do that, I would have taken the photo into Photoshop and we would have edited that. And that sounds really, and that takes probably 3 times as long to do it really well and fine detailed so that you can't see that it's been edited. The problem with AI is I'll tell that platform, change his short colors, and it will change 4 other things of the photo. No matter if I tell it to leave everything the same and just change the color of his shorts, he'll end up with 3 arms. Or I had this one photo the other day that I was working on and I went, I needed, it was, so sometimes with design, we will use some AI generated photos if we're trying to give a client an idea of the types of photos we need. So we're doing a poster and we're like, hey, before your photo shoot, here are some different shots or different angles that I would encourage you to look at creating in your photo shoot for your marketing elements. So I will use AI sometimes for that, to just give them examples if I can't find stock photography that exactly amplifies that. However, the problem with that again is when I do that, I had one photo where I was looking for a physician working with a child in an orthopedic space, and the kid only had one leg. And I was like, well, everything else about this photo is really great, but I can't put that he only has one leg, because it wasn't one leg in the sense of like he had a normal hip and he was missing, like it was an amputated leg or a situation like that. It was solely that his hip went into one single leg, and there was no like natural human shape to his body. So those are a lot of areas where it sounds, I mean, I kind of bring the humor into it, because sometimes you're working with these platforms and you're going, okay, seriously, what about that? What about that can I use? Like, I can't use that. That's not going to work for my client base or for my client. So I find that AI falls short in the space of it's got a good start. It's got some components that definitely can make our day-to-day processes more efficient and help us be quicker, or help us think through things in a specific mannerism or a specific tone of voice or things like that. But from a design perspective, it's just, in my opinion, not there yet. It just lacks, you have to be very, very, very specific on telling it what to do. And honestly, by the time I sit and tell it 45 different prompts to get exactly the photo that I need it to create, I should have just photoshopped the guy's shorts
So Laura,
from hot pink to orange.
let me ask you a question here, because I know you actually have a photographer that you
Yeah, that I
trust
work
and that
with.
you work
Yeah.
with, and I can usually tell now when a picture is an actual photograph, and I think the
Right.
quality is different. So can you?
Yes.
I don't know if this is in your presentation. I can't remember, but can you touch on just real quickly what are some instances where you're, I think most cases, but where you're a much greater benefit to utilize the photographer as opposed to using a stock photo?
Stock photo or AI photo? Because those are two different spaces.
Actual, I'm sorry, an AI photo.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because I was going to say, like, stock photography is
it's
photographers that have
photography.
taken
Yeah,
all those
sorry.
photos. Yeah. No, no, you're good. I just I was like, let me make sure I'm clear on that. Um, I mean, one, and this is kind of going to sound silly, but obviously, as a designer, I value the creativity that each individual type of business has, whether you're a videographer, a photographer, a designer, a web developer, like this is kind of going to go off just the photography, but even in web development space, people are using AI to write all their code, and now developers are losing jobs because AI can write all the code. And that is kind of a struggle as well in our industry, same as photography is dealing with AI constantly being able to generate all these images and people not wanting to hire photographers. And I just think all in all, it kind of goes to everything we're talking about. You're losing that human touch. You're losing that person's natural creative space. AI doesn't have the level of creativity to get you that perfect shot. So a photographer, when I'm on a photo shoot, will be working in a space and I'll say, I need you to get a shot of that, or I need you to get a shot of that. And then she might show me the shot. And I'm like, I need you to be lower. I need a different angle. Or a big, big thing where I notice photography is a key element is when we're working on photography for your website. And people forget that in the world of responsive website, you need to take photos really far back with a lot of dead space, because that photo needs to be able to expand really, really wide and really, really large, and then get really, really small on mobile, and the focus of your imagery stay centered. So if I'm working like with a personal trainer and we're doing photography, we want that subject matter to stay in the middle of that entire photo so that as it gets bigger or smaller, it stays consistent. But you still need all the dead space, as I call it, around it for it to work on responsive. Another
Another
thing with,
thing, real
yeah, you
quickly,
go ahead.
another thing I want to make sure we touch on this too is because we saw this here at AB Tech. So a lot of times you want to maintain integrity in terms of the staff or the people who
Hmm.
work there or the what the building looks like, the culture, that sort of
Yeah,
thing. So that's a lot of times, for instance,
real
if you
people.
see a picture of AB Tech and you see people in the photos, those are actually people who are on AB Tech's campus. So, and that's something
Yes,
that you really can
absolutely.
appreciate is like you just being remaining genuine and keeping your integrity
Yeah.
with the business is a key reason that you would want to have a real picture, if you will, photographer take a picture. So,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, and that's even where, I mean, that's where stock photography, we deal with a lot of that, where with a lot of the companies I've used until they can get their own photos, we do use stock photography because you need something there, you need a visual component there. But I am always encouraging my clients, hey, like I work with a chiropractic business here in Asheville, and we just did their website, but they haven't had the opportunity to get those in office photos yet. So that's a space where we've done a lot of stock photography. But when a client goes to that website, they're going to be able to tell because there's not consistency across the photos. The backgrounds are different, the lighting's different, the style of the photos are different. When you work with a photographer and you have them come and take your photos, everything's going to be consistent. They're going to edit your photos the same way. They're going to have the same style, the same lighting, the same mood. So that's another big thing is, and to your point, yes, I work with a photographer, but I actually have kind of a couple different photographers that I work with because some may edit photos a little bit more moody. Some may edit them a little bit light and airy, or some may be really pungent and bold in colors. And so, dependent on the business I'm working with and the brand we're creating and the vibe and the emotions we want to evoke, that kind of depends on who the best person is to pull in, even from a photography standpoint, videography standpoint, all of those elements. It's the same as I kind of mentioned a second ago with web development. I need to be able to work with someone that's going to be able to create that same brand and space that we want to create from the brand to create that consistency that we're talking about. And again, with AI, you just can't be that specific or that detailed to get it to accomplish exactly what you want it to accomplish. It might get it 75% there, but that 25% gap can really make or break how someone engages with your marketing and your visuals. Um, a brand system, not a collection of assets. So this kind of, again, kind of talks about how we're not just doing a logo. We're not just then doing a business card. Everything has to have visual consistency. When I take every single piece of a company's brand that I've worked on and I lay it out on a table, I want everything to work together. It shouldn't all completely look the same. Like every single thing, if we're doing on a business card, let's say we've done a dark blue background with a white logo and then the contact info on that side. Not every single thing that goes with that brand will then have a dark blue background where the logo sets. But it might be in a turquoise square box on one thing, but then there's a nice big blue section at the bottom that creates that visual balance across our elements and our assets without it feeling too the same, but consistent and cohesive as a group. And that's kind of the same with social media. One of the things that I have found is really helpful for clients in the social media space is, everyone feels like they have to kind of be their own social media marketer in the space of businesses now. I know me personally, I don't have someone that does our social media. It is 100% on me. So one of the things that I have started offering clients is we will go into their Canva account and build out on brand templates for them so that at least they can create that visual consistency across the social platform for a testimonial or a product, promotion, or a team member, someone new has been added to the team. And so it kind of sets them up to have the assets they need so they're not having to create that all themselves and have to think through that brand component themselves, like a way a graphic designer would as well. Benefits of outsourcing your branding efforts, cost versus value. And this is obviously a big thing that, I mean, the world that we're living in is expensive, if everyone knows and feels that probably on a daily basis. So definitely a big thing that I always come up against is, when I'm working with someone and I give a proposal, it's the cost. It's you're starting up, you're just getting going. And obviously you're having to invest that money in lots of different aspects. So, how do we budget to make it all affordable for the business to do the things you need to do? And that's kind of why I don't steer away from a lot of clients that maybe have started their business. They've been in business for 3 to 5 years, let's say. They had a kind of initial logo, and now they're finally in the headspace where they can come to me and hire me. And one of the services that we offer is what's called a brand refresh. So you've established your business, you've been using this logo, and budget is tight. Well, this is an option that as a designer, I've been able to help people still establish all of those brand elements, but use a lot of the elements in a brand that maybe you've already created to kind of blend those together and be kind of that middle ground to get people going till maybe they can invest in a full-fledged brand that goes through all the processes of the branding, the research, us doing what we do as designers and searching your audience outside of maybe what you have done. But the biggest thing with value in what a graphic designer brings is everything about what we focus on is about the longevity of your business and the success long term. And that is just something that comes with, I think, years of experience and years of trial and error and years of seeing what does and doesn't work and research and comparisons and doing all those things to kind of see this is what's going to set your business up for consistency long term, for success long term. And honestly, another thing is one of the other things I've seen a lot of is the difference in hiring. There's lots of people that do different types of graphic design. I know graphic design is a very competitive space. Pretty much all graphic designers talk about that, how there's lots of people that have gone to all different kinds of schools. There's also lots of self-taught people. And so one of the other things I always, say is sometimes investing in your brand right off the get-go and doing it right the first time can actually save you money in the long haul versus trying to find lots of different avenues to do it in that affordable mannerism that could affect the business cost wise, not just from an investment in your brand, but also in the success of your business and maybe it getting a head start or making sales 10 times faster. If you're establishing it right off the bat with a really strong brand, you could be 5 years ahead of what you could be if you took the slower route to establishing that brand right off the bat. Oh, I feel like I kind of just said that. Long-term return on investment. So that kind of also just talks a little bit of what I just finished saying is the whole goal of everything we do is to create that long-term and on investment for you. So yes, you invest in your brand and that can be costly, but and the goal is that increases your sales 2, 3, 4 times, no matter what you're, trying to sell so that you get that benefit long term. Okay. I just want to check in and see if anyone has any questions.
So I do, just to kind of help
Okay.
people understand
Yeah.
the the capacity of this, if you will,
Yeah.
because I have a lot of clients who, for instance, they come in and they may have a specific core competency. They may be, plumber, electrician, whatever,
Hmm.
specific skill set. And then they
Yeah.
say to me, "Hey, I want to start a YouTube station." And so they don't realize that that's a whole separate job, like
Right.
capturing video, production, editing, all those
Yeah.
things. You got to manage the social, all that stuff. You got to manage your touch points in a different way once you start doing that. So, and then after they do a little bit of research, they realize that's a really big haul. And if you're trying to monetize that, that's another story altogether
Oh,
because it's
yes.
very hard to monetize
Hmm.
YouTube, for example. And so I would ask you, for those who may still question whether or not they should outsource, how much time would you need to dedicate to comprehensive strategic implementation of your brand if you are a plumber or an electrician or you have a business that's completely unrelated? Like when you consider
Okay.
designing, deployment, assessing the the efforts, and then going back and reviewing those efforts and making corrections and doing all those, being
Yeah.
consistent and monitoring all this stuff, how much time would you say you'd have to dedicate to that?
Well, okay, so I guess let me ask, are we thinking like just in general, start to finish, this is the amount of time, or are we talking about like week to week,
Week
like
to
an
week.
ongoing standpoint?
Yeah.
If you were doing everything, if we were doing not just because brand is bigger than just a logo, that's kind of
Right.
what we're here to talk about, right?
Right.
It's your social media, it's your email marketing, it's your website. I mean, it's a full-time job, honestly. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a 40-hour a week job, but you definitely are probably going to be doing at least 20 hours a week between social media, the creation of the assets, the edits to your website, because one of the biggest things that is in the website space is SEO, and constantly having to tweak and update, terminology, keywords on our websites to make sure that it's tracking. Another big thing is Google Business Profile and how people find you, and making sure that information is up to date, and uploading new photos and engaging with reviews and things like that. To do it completely on your own, there's a lot. There's a lot of different components. And I know some of those things are marketing versus graphic design, but really those two things have to work together in order for your business to be successful. You need both. You need the design elements and then how that implements to your marketing strategy and how that grows the business and how you get the reach to your clients. Um, so yeah, it's definitely a lot, and I think that's, the clients that I do work with, or the people that I do work with, sometimes it will just be, I'll use an example. Like I had this one client, they were a law office, and we were doing their logo, and I could just tell that this client needed like a working session together. Like we kept going back and forth in emails, and I could tell, I was like, I just am not clearly getting what she's explaining, but I'm not sure that she actually also knows what she wants, because I would give her what she wanted, but then she'd be like, oh, that's just like not it. Right. So I suggested, let's do a working session. And so, of course, in those instances, she's watching me as I'm spitfiring and making these different changes as we go. And that is ironically a really big thing that, the first thing people always say to me is, oh my gosh, you just did that so fast. Like when I've tried to dabble in Canva, or when I've tried to dabble in Word or whatever platform, what you just did would have taken me 3 hours. And so that is ironically, like when you do this every single day, when this is your profession, you obviously get quicker, you think through things, you process things faster. And kind of saying to that point, that's why I don't implement AI as much in my business as of right now. I have a lot of companies that I work with that want me to incorporate AI from a efficiency standpoint, in the sense of proofreading, or like proofing my projects. If we're doing like a multi-page documentation, hey, can you start using AI to to check all of these things, like a spelling, spelling check on steroids is what I kind of call it. And I totally respect and get why that would be super helpful. And I'm not opposed to utilizing a tool to fact check me or to double check me behind. However, I also don't want to rely on that, because even though the human, brain can make mistakes, the more I stay engaged with the edits or with the things I need to do, the quicker and sharper my brain stays in the space that I'm working in. And the more I remember to double check or to fact check myself first.
Right.
So I think, again, it's like one of those things where I'm noticing that we're just in a space of everyone wants to overutilize it. And I think we should be utilizing it, but I still think we should be utilizing ourselves first, even if that means it takes us a little bit longer. Because what is the saying? The hare doesn't always win the race, the turtle wins the race. Like, there is something to be said for going a little bit slower, taking your time, adding in those really important points can be more beneficial long term. And I think, obviously, 10, 15 years from now, I think we're going to see that, especially in the design space where there has been this overload of AI. And I think it's going to kind of backfire long term. And then I think we're going to come back to a
Mhm.
space of recognizing that, like, there's a reason why we need people and, individuals and the uniqueness in each person. No
Absolutely.
designer is the same. And I know I think we touch on that here in a second, but that's a big thing that we'll kind of also talk about, is finding that designer that fits you, that meshes with you, that you engage with. I mean, I tell clients all the time when I'm meeting them, I'm like, let's get to know each other. Let's talk. Let's see if we're a good fit. But if you feel like I'm not the right fit for your business, I completely respect that, because each person in a design space has their own creativity. I mean, that's why no graphic designer designs the same type of materials, because the style that I gravitate towards is going to be completely different to the 4 other designers that I've worked with. And that can be a very beautiful thing when you're collaborating, because you can all push each other and encourage each other and push each other outside of comfort zones. But from a client to designer standpoint, it's okay for someone to not be the right fit for your business. And I always support, people and really interviewing and finding that person that feels good for you.
Yeah, and I one thing you said that I think everybody can resonate with in terms of just the time spent is I think everyone has had an experience where they've gone online to problem solve, whether it be fixing something
Right.
at home, doing something in your business, whatever it may be,
Yeah.
and they see it and they watch the video and it looks so easy, and they go outside and they try to do it or wherever they do it, and it's like, what the heck? I've been
Yeah,
on this
something's
thing for
not
3
working.
hours now, and it's not. And then there's also the situation where you go online to get some information, and the terminology is not terminology that you understand, and you're
Right.
looking up the word. You're trying to figure out what the words mean,
You're like, wait, what was that?
and
You're like,
so
hold
now
on, let me get
you're
my
just,
phone.
yeah,
Like, I got to
and
get the
now you're just
computer
in
so
this
I can
rabbit
search
hole.
that.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's a prime example of,
absolutely.
like, if you don't have someone like you who does this all the time,
Right.
it could be an opportunity cost for your business, because you're
Yeah.
wasting 3 4 hours, days, whatever, when someone can come in and fit and solve that problem in an hour. So I think that's the main point I wanted to land with
Yeah.
that. So that's
Well,
great.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's to your point talking about a plumber, right?
yeah,
Like, I'm not going to try to fix a leak in my house. I'm going to hire someone that's an expertise.
right.
Now, I firmly believe in, hey, let me YouTube this and see like what could be causing this, so I educate myself before maybe said plumber gets there, so that I can better understand how he's going to talk to me or explain something to me.
Yeah,
But, to your point, like, this is why we have experts in every aspect of your field. So, to the same point, if I'm starting a business as a massage therapist, let's say hypothetically, or a chiropractor, you know, that's why I go to you. I go to you as your client because you are the expert in that field. And so it's kind of the same thing with graphic design. It's, like, but as I said, I do understand the space because as a small business, we also have budgets. A big thing for our business is social media presence. And that's something that is still on our shoulders. Obviously, we're a marketing company, so we have the ability to do that. But, it's the growth and finding ways that you're like, okay, this is something we need to grow. This is somewhere where we need to delegate. We need to bring someone in that can support us to grow this further than the reach that we have because we're so busy doing X, Y, and Z, for our clients and stuff like that. So, okay, so legal risks and brand protection. This is something that like Dwayne and I kind of touched on that I'm not really going to get into a lot of.
We are not attorneys.
Yes, we are not attorneys. So all I can say in regards to AI specific is the rule of thumb that anything generated or created by AI is not considered original work and cannot be protected. When you're working with a designer, we do know a lot of the rules of what you can and can't do and what you shouldn't and shouldn't do from a legal standpoint of using other assets. So that's another big thing. Canva, everyone was so excited for, but unfortunately, Canva is also in that space where you can't get a copyright for that logo because probably 7 other businesses have that logo somewhere else. You can, so that's a big, honestly, the irony in this whole presentation, even though I know we're not going to really touch on the legal standpoint, is the legal backing of your brand is that much more important to work with a designer because the only way to truly get a custom logo that is going to withstand the lifetime of your brand from a legal standpoint is to work with a designer and to not pull from any other avenue that is easily accessible.
Yeah, there's a lot of things
If
to consider. There's the colors, there's the design elements, there's the industry, there's how you're going to use it. Are you only going to use it in the state? Or are you going to use it over state lines? So
Yeah.
there's a number of things to consider when you're trying to protect it, that you have to really think about. One of the things that is important, though, in terms of like if it's a trademark, one of the things that can help you if you've been using that and you can prove with a date stamp that you've been using it at a certain point in time, then that could give you some justification. But again, we're not attorneys. What I will do though is I'm going to after the presentation, I'm going to send an email out to everyone with a link to the program, and I'm also going to send you a document that we have in the SBC library. That's from the USPTO. It's a trademark basics document that kind of gives a really good overview of the different, like a patent, trademark, the different protections, and kind of walks you through the process of what you would need to do to acquire those licenses and things like that. So I will share some information, but we're not going to get too into the weeds on that.
No, the only thing I do want to add, because I do see this a lot, and I actually have a couple friends that work in the space of like insurance over photography and things like that, is please be mindful of not pulling photos off places like Google or reusing artwork that you find on Google or online search engines and then claiming that as your business's logo or editing it to be that, because anything that you find online has tracking information that the original designer, original creator can access and find who is using their work in the digital space. So I see that a lot where people pull from Google or they just search, even if you're downloading an asset from a stock photography or stock company. The one thing I do know is you technically cannot use and claim that as 100% your own asset. It does have to be changed and altered to a certain extent to be. I don't know the specifics on that, but I just kind of wanted to give a high level because that's a really big thing that I see a lot of people do. Great from a research standpoint, but be very very cautious to not cross that boundary kind of thing. So sorry. Okay, so why one size market fits all marketing fails. Your audience interacts differently depending on where they find you. So this kind of goes a little bit to what I mentioned earlier about, how I may design a business card one way, but then I might design your social templates a specific way or your website, or there'll be different elements and different layouts based on the medium that we're designing. Same with like billboards, right? Billboards, you don't want too much copy and text because you have 30 seconds maybe or 15 seconds to catch that person's attention and get them to be able to read that. Whereas a brochure is the perfect space to give someone all the information that you want, or your website, even better. Put it all there and then add a QR code to your brochure that says, if you want to learn more information, scan to go to this page on our website. So to this point, it's kind of like, looking at the different mediums that you're working with and engaging with your audience and making sure that you're fitting it to attract and get the best engagement possible. Maintaining consistency while adapting content. Your brand should be recognizable without every piece looking exactly the same. To the point that I mentioned earlier, I will use an example of, maybe I have a brand that we use a lot of circles in their brand elements or on their flyers, but I may not put that circle in the same exact spot every single time. Maybe the logo's at the bottom in an arching, shape, but then maybe on another flyer, it's up in the top left corner in a circle. Those are ways to create consistency across our brand, creating a sense of curvature and circular shapes and elements across the brand without making every single flyer or every single piece that we create look exactly the same. So it's making sure that we're designing and creating each individual piece of marketing to that piece and what we're trying to communicate and what works with the copy. Like the biggest thing that I feel like a lot of people I see forget about is it's designing it to what you're trying to say and calling out and making sure that the text and all the really important things are grabbing people's attention. Because one thing I notice is, sometimes we want to say too much and we can say a lot, but some people aren't going to read all of that. So taking that text and saying, okay, what are we going to pull out so that if someone skims this, they still get the main context of what we're trying to say. Building a brand that can adapt. So that kind of goes back to talking about the long term of your business. And that's a big thing that we as designers really take the time to think about. Is I'm not just thinking about what trends are working right now. I'm researching and paying attention to where are things going? Where have things been? Where have they gone thus far? And where are they headed? And kind of taking that experience to understand, okay, I want to make sure this is vibing with our current culture and our current, design trends, but also I want to set them up to be success in the long term. The one thing I will say, which a lot of people are very shocked at when I say, is a brand should be refreshed every 5 to 10 years. Your brand should morph and evolve with your business as time goes. So while the brand may keep a lot of similar attributes, it might be that we change the font style because things have modernized or things have changed, and we need to stay with that time. So we give it a little refresh. I'm sure a lot of people have seen that Instagram just recently changed their font face. Well, if you look at the history of Instagram, I think has actually changed their logo maybe 7 or 8 times already since they first started, I think at least. And they came out less than 20 years ago. So if you think about that, they've made adjustments and changes to their brand. What is that? Almost every 2 to 3 years, somewhat like 3 or maybe 3 or 4 years. So they are constantly, and I know Instagram's a really big, platforms. Obviously, they have the money to be morphing that. But it is really important to know that like your brand can stay recognizable, but also morph and change as times change and as things evolve stylistically. The power of storytelling in branding. So the biggest thing is our logo, our brand, everything we produce that goes out to our people or to our demographics. We want them to connect with what we're selling. We want them emotionally to engage. We want them to feel what you want them to feel. What is your passion? Why are you doing what you're doing? And then we want them to feel that so that they engage with your content in the same emotion that you're engaging with why you do what you do. It also builds trust, building something that represents who you are so that when they meet you and when they engage with you or when they engage with your product, they feel the same emotions as maybe they first did when they saw that ad, builds that trust to the brand. And also give people a reason to care about what you're doing. When we're talking about website copy, when we're talking about those kinds of things, be emotional and be emotional in a strategic way so that people can feel that passion or feel what you're trying to say or tell the story of how you got to where you got. Because I think the more we have of that in the world too, the more relatable we all become. I know that I have quite a few friends at times that say I say too much or I tell too much sometimes. And, they are totally right. I do sometimes overtalk or overtell a story. But at the same time, I have a lot of people that have also come up to me because of that and said that they felt safe to tell me something that they were going through because of my transparency or because I told that story or because I was willing to do that. So it's the same, I believe, in your business. I think being willing to tell the whole story, being willing to be transparent with our client bases and the people we're trying to connect with is really valuable and important. What makes a strong brand story? All the things that you do when you're first starting a business. Why am I here? What's my purpose? What's my company's mission? What are our values as a company? Who's our customer? And how do we want to transform that customer's experience after they've worked with us or after they've worked with our product or whatnot? It's all those foundational, fundamental pieces that I am sure Dwayne and Daphne and everyone spends a lot of time, kind of helping people work with those nitty gritty details of the foundation of who you are and what your company is. This is kind of what I just said too. Okay, how AI helps experience designers work smarter. And I know I kind of have already talked on this, but it's really just the biggest thing is productivity, researching, brainstorming, organizing my thoughts, organizing our, maybe taking all my meeting notes from a meeting that I have and then putting it into ChatGPT and saying, organize this better because the note taker didn't organize it to where my brain functions. So in being more efficient with some of those day-to-day tasks from a designer perspective or those business management tasks, it allows me to have more creative time, to be more creative and to spend more time in the space that is my strength and my strong suit. Form an idea to execution faster. AI can help move creative work forward without skipping the thinking behind it. We can start by generating starting points, explore variations, refine content, speed up production, and leave more time for refinement. So this kind of touches on what I mentioned about, being able to make all those edits and revisions myself as an individual, but utilizing AI to triple check myself right before I send it to the client so that I'm still fully engaged in the project and the work that I'm creating, but still utilizing something like AI to be like, hey, obviously I know I make mistakes. Check me. Where have I made a mistake? What have I missed before sending it to that client? Because in turn, that saves your client time, because then they are going to read that and realize there's no edits or there's no revisions because you've gone through your checklist and know that you've gotten everything. AI has done that for you as well. So that kind of saves everyone time in an indirect way. Experience is still the difference. So while AI is amazing, as we've been talking about kind of all day, or not all day, but all morning, human judgment and human experience and human engagement is always going to be, in my opinion, the key to success. The key to success for your business long term and your brand and all the things that come with the visual representation of your business. Okay, this is kind of what I mentioned earlier. I knew I was like, I can't remember where it is in this presentation, but I know it's in here. So how to vet the right design professional. I think Dwayne and I kind of talked about this. This was like a big thing that we talked about a few weeks ago when we were talking about kind of the different elements that we wanted to talk about. And I know I kind of touched on it earlier, but you want to work with someone that obviously cares. You want to work with someone that shows engagement, that's asking you lots of questions, that's pushing you to think about things that maybe you haven't thought about. But a big thing too that I find is look at their portfolio. Do your research on their styles, their designs, because 9 times out of 10, every graphic designer, every design professional, there's a theme that they have between their logos or their designs. And not all the time. There are some designers, and I'm sure if someone looked at all of my stuff, they would still find certain consistencies across mine. I do uh, try very hard to not do that. But there is nothing wrong with a designer who does what they are good at and has a vibe, and that's what they stick to. And the beauty of working with a designer like that is you know what you're kind of going to get. If you look at all their stuff and you absolutely love the color palettes that they use, or the tones of the colors, or the typography that they use. I mean, I have some friends that are designers that do beautiful custom typography, and that's their niche. And so it's like, if you want something that is 110% beautiful custom typography, the whole 9 yards, then that's the perfect designer for you to hire. So it's really researching, check out their portfolios, get to know them, read about them on their websites. And also ask them difficult questions, or ask them questions that might put them on their toes to really give you some strategy points or things that you have questions to. Um, Ask them, what mediums do they work in? Can they support you outside of just a logo? Can they support you with your website? I think it's very valuable to keep all of your marketing and creative in one house. And that is actually an area that the world is steering away from. You have a lot more businesses specializing. So you have someone that does social media, then you have people that do digital marketing, which is more email and SEO and ads. And then you have someone that does the website, and then you have a graphic designer that kind of fills in the gaps everywhere else. But then you also have some graphic designers that just do logos and websites, and they don't know how to do like a multi-page publication, or if you need a booklet or you need a brochure or things like that. They just solely have packages, and that's what you hire them to do, and they knock that part out, and then you have to find someone to do the other items. So just kind of, figuring out what you need. And the biggest piece that I would always encourage you is to know that, like, a really good graphic designer is also going to tell you things that you need that you may not have thought of. That's the biggest piece that I would say to look for is a really strong designer is going to sit with you and hear everything you're saying and be making a list of, hey, have you thought about this? Or what are your thoughts about this? Or I'm thinking this could be a strategy. So it's not someone that just does everything you're wanting to. It's someone that sit down and says, so I hear we need all of this. But in this, in order for this all to work, we also might need to consider doing X, Y, and Z so that all of this works together cohesively. Some of the most successful agencies that I've worked with and had an honor of learning under and working under, that's what they do. They don't just take the order. They also get creative and say, hey, we want to be your strategic partner in this. So here's the areas that we can see maybe you haven't thought about that we would encourage you to consider as well to have the utmost success long term. I feel like I kind of just said that within my like things to pay attention to. Also red flags. Red flags to watch for. They just jump straight into creating. Everything starts with aesthetics before your goals and audience. Same solution used for everyone, meaning they take a logo template and they just change out text. There are designers out there that have that, where they have, as I mentioned, not just necessarily packages, but I have seen it where there are creators that have maybe 30 different logo templates that they've created, and you pick a package and you kind of pick a look and feel, and then they just kind of morph that somewhat to be your brand, but it's not really your brand. It's kind of like a fancier Canva version, if that makes sense. They overlook the detail and they simply take orders. That kind of goes to what I was saying. A really good designer is not just going to do what you ask them to do. They're going to sit down and say, hey, let's talk about this. Let's look at this from a strategy standpoint. Let's make your business the most successful. And here's how, and tell you all the ways to do that. What experience brings to the table? Experience isn't just about designing faster, because we are very fast at what we do because we do it every day. It's knowing what to consider along the way. Choose a designer who understands how your business works and not just how the brand needs to look. Okay. Yay! So just a couple quick, recaps, quick bullet points before we open the floor for any questions. Design is a business strategy. It's not just about visual artistry. Brand differentiation is essential. Audience understanding drives effective marketing. AI is a powerful tool, but not a replacement for expertise. And strategic design creates measurable business value. Any questions?
Any questions? Speak now, forever hold your peace. The chat is also open if you're able to unmute. And Jesse, I see you got on a little late. Thank you for joining us. Good to see you in the meeting. Just so you know, we are, as I said previously, we're going to post this on the YouTube station, so you'll be able to watch it on demand. I'll send the link out also with a document on some basic things to know about protection, band protection from the USPTO. So thanks a lot. Laura, you did a great job.
Thank you. I
Just so y'all know,
appreciate everyone's patience.
This is Laura's first go around, and I think she did a really good job. I was not nervous one bit. We went over this, and I think it was very, very informative. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. And, I know, what is it? It seems like Teams is making it hard for everyone to kind of chime in communication wise. But I appreciate everyone being here. I will also add my email into the chat here in case anyone has any follow-up questions that they want to reach out directly. I know sometimes sitting in a big group space, I'm not always the favorite person of raising my hand in a big group space too. So I'm happy to, chat with you guys further one-on-one if there's, questions or other specific business questions with your design specifically that you have for your company, or that you're just kind of starting to ponder and you want someone to throw things at a wall with. So, yeah, it was great meeting everyone. And Dwayne, thank you so much for having me and Daphne. It's always great to see you guys.
All right. Thank
Daphne,
you all.
thank you. Let me